Hello, everyone. Welcome to Off the Charts, episode 181. I'm going to be talking about Kiss Alive. How live is it of an album? Before we start off, if you like this type of content, please like and subscribe, tell your friends, and hit that motherfucking bell below to be notified when I'm making new content. 5 more until I reach 400, then we'll think about a new contest to do there. So tell your friends about this channel. The more the merrier. So I will be talking about another episode on Kiss. Some may know the story, some may not. Everybody had doubts, let me put it that way. So I'm talking about one of the, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a number one Kiss fan here. It's my band. Whatever you read, Kiss Alive is considered one of the better live albums out there. Okay, groundbreaking or whatnot. So today there are some videos out there of Kiss admitting to what is live on that album and what is not. And there's some pretty cool trickery, like studio trickery, that some of you may or may not know about. So I'm here to set the record straight the way Kiss has set the record straight. Will we ever really know the real reason? Who knows? This is Kiss we're talking about here. So first of all, cheers to you all. There we go. Okay. So I'm not here to say what they did was right or wrong as live albums go. But I totally get why it was done. I'm just saying that I'm not here to tell you whether they were right or wrong. I'm just telling you I get why it was done the way it was done. So first of all, Alive was a groundbreaking, you got to look inside it. Even Alive 2 is even better. You have these little notes from each Kiss member, and of course promoting their first 3 albums here. So to make a long story short, Kiss Alive is pretty much a greatest hits of their first 3 albums. Now, their first 3 studio albums did fuck all, like selling, like it was like 50,000. They recorded 3 albums and it was not going well with the record company. And it's like the meeting was like all Kiss members like, we got to do something here, guys. Let's make a last ditch effort. So what was decided was, look, our studio albums are not selling like at all, but people are coming to see our shows live, like they were selling out arenas or very big halls, I should say, at the time. So, but it wasn't translating to record sales. So they're like, look, we got to do something here. Like there's some's going on, but something is also not happening at the same time. So live, everybody was like, when Kiss came to town, you had to see Kiss. It was like the greatest show. It still is, actually. I'm going to go see them in November again. Actually, you know what? Now that I'm talking about this episode, I'm actually looking forward to again seeing them for a hopefully last time. But anyway, that's another story. So yeah, their first 3 studio albums were not selling, but people were going, like selling out arenas, going to see them live. So they're like, what do we do? Like, okay, so they're like, why not make a live album? It's not going to cost much money. The record company at the time didn't have much money either. So, and plus their studio albums, and you listen to, let's say, Kiss, Hotter Than Hell or Dressed to Kill, you listen to those songs and you listen to them on Alive, the energy is totally not the same. Okay, so their studio albums did not really translate well onto a live album. So they're like, yeah, you know what? Let's give it all we got. It's not going to cost much money because it's just a live album. We're just going to record some shows. So what started is so Kiss Alive. I mean, the album looks, and of course, this is Cobo Hall, which actually attended with to see Kiss with my friend concert Steffi. We went to Cobo Hall just before they tore it down, and of course, it was Kiss playing there. We actually went to Detroit just to see Kiss there. So it was a fun experience. Let me put it that way. It had nothing to do with Kiss. That's I'm talking about visiting the town and the town and the arena Cobo Hall. So it was a series of 5 shows for I know Cleveland, St. Louis, Detroit. I forget the other 2 there. So they were going to record some concerts. So like, okay, we're just going to record that, and of course, you're playing your ass off, but you're also being Kiss. And Kiss, have you ever seen these guys live? They're friggin' jumping around and like there's lots of movement. So they're like, okay, well, let's just make a live souvenir, a last ditch effort. You know what? Let's try to replicate on a vinyl or on an album what it's like to be at a Kiss concert. And by God, did they ever succeed? Okay, but so they did go. Of course, like they had no hits. How do you make a live album with no hits? They had no hit songs at the time. It's like this is like career suicide here, but they wanted to. Something was happening live. Definitely was happening live. So it's just like let's try to replicate what it is to see a Kiss concert live on vinyl. So the listener can be part of the concert and party. So they record everything and they're like, they're like, okay, yeah, this is gonna not cost much money. They go back, sorry, they record all their 5 concerts. They go back and they're like, okay, we're hearing lots of mistakes. Vocals, harmonies aren't great. You're listening to the crowds are it's all muffled, or they had so it's like, oh my God, we're gonna need to do a lot of overdubs for this here. So first thing is they're noticing, so you're in the audience, you're seeing a concert live, you're actually listening with your eyes and ears, right? Well, on vinyl, you're only listening with your ears, so it's going to be easier to spot the mistakes. So, when you're jumping up and down and making mistakes and of course, all you Gene Simmons haters are going to love this here. I have a CD, I should have taken it out there, but I'll put the picture here of when they got reunited. There's a CD of tracks that did not make Kiss Alive and Alive 2. And there was it Let Me Know, where Gene Simmons just goes off the bass. So I'm like, I'm not here to discuss his talent, but there's some errors there. So, but when you're jumping up and down, your mic, what, what song can I use? Strutter. I know a thing or two about her. Like you're moving a lot, so you're not picking up the vocals at a proper place. So first thing, so when they did the recordings of those 5 shows, they went and re-recorded the vocals. So now it was just, you're recording like in a studio. So they're re-recording on top of the live track. So they're kind of, I'm not sure if they took off the real vocal track and completely changed the vocal tracks, but there was lots of mistakes just like that. But they're matching it to the track. Another thing, well, obviously that they're there, they fixed the mistakes on the songs. The rapping in between songs, I believe also those may have been recorded in the studio. So like I said, you had your real concert. They redid the um, vocals, some guitar work, some sound, and this is what actually gets interesting here. So explosions. If you listen to, or especially the crowd. So this is actually, I find this genius, but again, is it the right thing to do? Yeah, I don't know. It's not me to decide. I just know I like the album, and it's what made me want to be a rock star when I was a kid, you know? So they took the crowd and they're like, okay, well, they're listening. So they've pretty much fixed, your vocals, your drums, your guitars, your solos, and whatnot. The raps in between songs, those were tampered with, but to make the experience to see a Kiss concert even better. So they took the crowd, they recorded the crowd, and you can actually watch this interview on YouTube here. So you got your crowd. Let's take that same track, re-record again, but double it. So they double the crowd to make it sound even more, your hands clapping, or your people singing to Rock and Roll All Night. So you've got, and of course, explosions. I think the same thing. I'm not 100% sure, but explosions were either the sound of the explosion was boosted up. You can hear the thing. But the crowd is. I know for a fact now that the crowd was actually doubled. So you have the one layer of the crowd, you'll have the same one, or they took parts of a concert where the crowd was going nuts and flipped that part of the crowd to a different song where it kind of needed that sort of a chant or whatever. And I was like, okay. But yeah, it's like, how do you make explosions, crowds sound cool? Well, you double them or you boost up a signal here and there. So I was like, okay, the crowd was actually doubled, which kind of makes sense. There's some little bits. I was like, why is the crowd starting just there? Like, why are they starting to clap all in sequence right at this moment right here? Time for a pause. But they wanted, and like I said, this is where I think they really succeeded. They wanted to show how exciting it was to be at a Kiss concert. And now and of course now I'm listening to, or I was listening to it as a kid or as a teen, I should say, there, Kiss Alive, and you're like, it's got everything. It's got explosions, great crowds. It's got the drum solo. Whether you like drum solos or not, I can probably, whether you think it's talented or not, again, it's not important what I'm talking about here. I knew it by heart. I knew, when the drum solo is going on, and of course you've got Paul Stanley getting the crowd to sing. Well, that's what made. Well, we've all heard this singer took Paul Stanley 101. This was the course, pretty much right here, was Kiss Alive, learning how to control a crowd. Do it once, twice, or three times, get the crowd going louder and louder. There's some great material, whether it was done in the studio or redone in the studio. Who knows? But sorry. But yeah, it's got everything. Guitar Freaks had a guitar solo at the end of She. You had your Ace, showing off his talent. And I will honestly say the best ever version of Let Me Go Rock and Roll is on Kiss Alive. Every time I see Kiss, I want them to replicate that version, not the version on Hotter Than Hell or whichever. I have airbanded Let Me Go Rock and Roll, and I can sing you or do the drum parts, airband, of course, there, to Let Me Go Rock and Roll. Like, you have no idea how much I airbanded to that. And of course, when Kiss Exposed came out, it was in 86, 87-ish. The first time I saw Kiss doing the deuce, na 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 na, that, well, now that changed everything on how you listen to Kiss Alive. So when I'm listening to Kiss Alive, I was doing this part in my room, pretending to have a guitar in my hand. That album really like had everything. It kind of made you feel that you were there. Um, it had your songs. It had your, if you were a fan of a certain instrument, you had something to crowd participation. Like I said, drum solos, guitar solos, explosions. I don't know what else to, but a lot of it, like I said, was done inside the studio. It's not as studio as you think it is, but it's not as live as you think it is either. It's like it's kind of in the middle here. Like you listen to Kiss Alive 2 and you hear some feedback, and that's definitely more live than Kiss Alive 1. Kiss Alive 1 sound like Kiss Alive, sorry, not Alive 1, sounds great. Like whether you're a Kiss fan or not, you listen to that and you've got everything. And this thing, because people were like, this went triple platinum just from word of mouth, from people saying, you guys have always wanted to see or hear Kiss live. Listen to Kiss Alive and it'll actually feel like you're there. You can actually imagine it. And I've done that many times. You're just listening to it as a kid, you're just listening to it, and you're like just imagining what's going on the stage just by listening to Kiss Alive. And Rock and Roll All Night. Everybody knows that song. Not many people know that the studio version completely tanked. It's the live version from Kiss Alive that was the hit. That's what made it popular. And of course, now we're hearing the studio version on the radio, which I'm not a huge fan of. But the Alive version is what was the hit for Kiss here. So again, is it, bands are like, okay, well, we want to do a live album the real way, which is real live. It's tough, I assume. I'm not saying that Kiss did the right thing ethically, but you know what? Kiss Alive will always, my heart's this side here, right? It'll always be a big part in my heart. Um, it's what made me want to pick up a bass. I wanted to be like Gene Simmons. So, but it's got like everything, like I said, explosions, drum solos, guitar solos, bass solos, but a pattern with a rhythm type of bass solo. And air banded the shit out of that album. So watch, like I said, their interview on YouTube for, like, it'll say it's them coming clean regarding how live it is, and you'll hear the mistakes, and you're like, okay, well, but like I said, when you're at the concert, I mean, I've seen Kiss many times. I've heard mistakes, not just with Kiss though. Many bands, like I've heard mistakes. It happens, of course. Then it happens when they're recording there. But anyway, this is just a. I'm not defending as if they did was the right thing or the wrong thing. To me, the end product is, this is a great sounding experience. It's like you were there live, whether it was recorded in the studio or parts of it live or parts of it in the studio. With Kiss, who will ever know? They've admitted to doubling up the crowd to make it sound even more. But you're listening to this and I don't know. I can't explain how great this album sounds and feels. It's got everything you want as a kid and as a musician. So that's my little take on Kiss Alive. How live is it really? I would say, from what I've seen, the interviews, I would say probably half and half studio, half, because there is some live stuff obviously on there. Um, I I will say that that version of Let Me Go Rock and Roll, though, has never been replicated as good as it is on, from what I've seen live or footage I've seen on YouTube. I've never heard it as good as I have on Alive, which is a shame. Whether they can't play it like that way or they just don't want to, I guess we'll never know. But anyway, that is my take on Kiss Alive. The fuck? Need to chew my food better, right? There we go. Fuck, I'm always afraid to knock it over. Anyway, that's, like I said, I just find it's a very good souvenir from what, there was no way that I would have been able to see Kiss where I lived at the time, but it was a great way for me to pretend to be there. So, like I said, if it's musically, it's not your thing to go in a studio and take re-record live stuff, I'd be curious to see how many bands out there have actually released a live album, how it was actually recorded with no overdubs or whatever. I would love to hear that. I don't know of any bands that haven't done any touch-ups, but we'll see there. Anyway, that is my take on that. I've rambled on enough there. So on that note, oh, by the way, I've wanted to say this at the, not even sure, I've been rambling on. I know this episode was supposed to be about Fist and me putting live concert footage. The day of the concert this past Saturday, I get an email saying the concert has been postponed to October 6th. So any Fist footage will have to wait until that weekend when I go see them. Hopefully it'll be okay there. So anyway, that's it. Sorry for the mix up there. So on that note, thank you guys for watching, and we shall see you guys next time. Take care. Bye-bye.